Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan and Pat back on this edition of Rising, and Pat, Tiny Dancer and Attorney General Fivehead rolled out their Chicago police reform plan, proposed consent decree this week. Now, against the backdrop of rough numbers, 5,000 people who've been murdered and 20,000 people who've been shot in Chicago in the 7 years that Tiny Dancer's been mayor. They've come up with some key reforms for the Chicago Police Department. For example, they going to investigate anonymous complaints against officers. So you don't have to sign an affidavit. You don't even have to give your name. You can just have a grudge against a police officer and file a report, and they're definitely going to need to hire more investigators if it just takes an anonymous complaint, but that's one thing. Requiring the department to track foot pursuits. I don't know, there's not as much detail there, but you've got body cams, and so I'm not sure exactly what more needs to be done there. You've got a video recording of foot pursuits. Limiting the use of tasers. We talked to Kevin Graham on my morning show this week. He's the president of Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. He's like, well, the limiting the use of tasers is interesting because they bought millions of dollars in tasers, suggesting that we should potentially choose a taser instead of a weapon, use non-lethal force when available. But now they're going to limit that use as well. I guess probably my suggestion was to have like a paintball game. So where you just like if you shoot somebody, then you're out of the game. You can't play anymore.
Right.
Is the other side using paintball guns?
They're not at present.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean,
that's the problem right here. I don't see that the cops are trying to go after. They don't seem to be using paintball guns.
No, but maybe if the police use paintball guns, that would be more sporting, and they would say, okay, well, we'll use paintball guns too.
Yeah.
And it'd just be a big
like
paintball gun
like that
fight.
scene in Rob Roy where you get to pick your sword, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah.
I'd pick the broadsword, by the way.
It'd be like you want to preemptively disarm to show good faith.
Correct.
So it was just like Paul Blart Mall cops for the Chicago Police Department, just on Segways with kind of the short sleeve dress shirt. Certainly no weapons. Maybe a walkie-talkie. That's the way we want to go here. And then the last thing. This is important. So somebody's in process of robbing a convenience store. The first thing you need to do as a police officer is identify that person's gender identity. So this would require police to use appropriate terms to a person's chosen gender identity. So you would say, in that instance, the scenario, I'm just trying to make it real for you. Excuse me, human being, we need to interact here because you're committing a crime. I would like to know how you would prefer I address you. And then that person tells you, I would prefer they or Z. And you say, okay, Z, hey, Z, stop robbing the convenience store.
Or I'll shoot, but not with my taser or my gun.
Correct. with my index finger and thumb.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so this is an important document. This is a document that Tiny Dancer, who, by the way, is playing the role of Hervé Villachez in the forthcoming Fantasy Island movie, he said this is a document that's going to stand the test of time.
Who is playing the Ricardo Montalban part? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'd be interested to find that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so passing through the hilarity of this, because it's not hilarious, right? Because, police officers are much maligned in the city because there are a few well-known cases of improper use of force. But in some places of the city, Dan, it's a war zone, and these guys and ladies go into this war zone to try to protect the poor people that are in these environments, the gangs, the violence, the guns, the machine guns, everything else. And so this is serious stuff. But what it is it's election year pandering, right? Rahm Emanuel is up for re-election. He's trying to cross off every single box, right? This is a something he can take to the African-American community and say, look, I'm trying to protect you from this evil scourge that is Donald Trump and police officers. He can go to the LGBTQ community and say, look, I'm trying to understand that's all this is, right? This is a way for him to call votes regardless of whether or not police officers are able to do their jobs more effectively or protect people that are in harm's way or themselves.
If police officers are the problem, then, I mean, shouldn't we begin by disarming them?
Or not having them.
Why, yeah, or disbanding the force, right? I mean, wouldn't you, if it's a gang, like some people have suggested, it's just another street gang, the Chicago Police Department, then why don't we just go ahead and disband it? I mean, I would like to press Tiny Dancer and Attorney General Fivehead and all the assembled luminaries in the city to just follow their logic to its absurd conclusion, which that would be it. That's the response when it comes to street criminals, and they treat Chicago police officers like street criminals, so why not just apply that remedy?
Yeah, and I don't understand why the response to this, and you talked to the Fraternal Order of Police head, why the response to this isn't for every single police officer when they're off duty, like the other public unions do, campaign for Rahm Emanuel's opponent. That's what I would do. I would respond to this with political force. They're a large organization. I would get the firemen in as well. And I would start the process of getting rid of this mayor who so clearly doesn't respect the incredibly difficult job they have of trying to protect people in the violent city that Emanuel has done nothing about.
Yeah, or in the alternative, they can shut down an expressway or something.